Okay, so our first talk today is going to be on representing motivation in a simple perceptual and motor coordination task based on a goal activation mechanism. And I guess just a quick announcement, if you have questions, again, those won't go over Zoom. If you can put them in Slack, and then we will, during Q&A time, we will read those. So yeah, if the first presenter is ready and can go ahead and share their screen, we'll go ahead.
Okay, I'll begin. So, hi, I'm Jumpei Nishikawa from Shizuoka University. I will talk about this title, representing motivation in simple perceptual motor coordination task based on the goal activation mechanism. This is a modeling and simulation study of motivation maintenance. So after the introduction, I will talk about the task and the result of human experiment on it. After that, I will talk about the model and simulation results. The introduction. One factor that influences well-being is motivation, motivation to the things, and passive routine task decrease subjective well-being. To avoid this, it will be necessary to provide intelligent and natural support. Appropriate support consists of monitoring of a human internal processing by a machine and timely intervention based on that monitoring. In particular, it is essential to obtain a computational model that represents a human internal processing. Here, motivation is a psychological effort influencing the continuation of the current task, and a related keyword is arousal and arousal level, which is a physiological factor that drives human activity. In this study, we deal with these two layers. Arousal level is a well-known factor that affects human task performance. For that specific task, too high or too low arousal level can have a negative effect. And arousal level decreases over time. This is due to workers becoming habituated or bored with the same tasks. When workers become habituated to a task, they begin to engage in routine thinking, which is called mind wandering. During mind wandering, their performance may also decrease. Based on the above, we develop a computational model to understand and predict the decrease in arousal or motivation due to the continuation of tasks. And we will examine the use of this model to appropriately control arousal level. And cognitive modeling is a method of constructing a computational model that this is a method of constructing a computational model that approximates the internal processing of human. As a basis for cognitive modeling, cognitive architecture has been developed. By using this framework, it is possible to discuss on a common ground. This research uses a cognitive architecture called Actual. Actual has modules that correspond to human brain regions. And furthermore, in Actual, the system of symbolic modules is controlled by sub-symbolic parameters. We believe that these two components are effective in representing motivational processes. Mind-wandering model using Actual have already been constructed. Fanbut represented mind-wandering as switching between task-related processing and task-unrelated thinking. The switching between these two processes is implemented as a retrieval for chunks corresponding to the goal of the activity. In this case, attending and distracted. On the other hand, the model doesn't account for changes associated with task execution. It also doesn't map well to physiological mechanism. Originally, the default Actual mechanism doesn't map well to physiological mechanisms. In this respect, there are studies that try to extend the Actual. Dancy proposed a new architecture called actal feed that maps the actual parameter to the physiological model Ham mode. For example, he maps epinephrine release to chunk activation noise in actal. In this study, we use this mapping idea to construct a motivational process model. By combining these ideas, the aim of this study is to develop a model of the motivational process in the performance of a simple routine task. Next, the task of this study and the result of human experiment only. We use the line following task as a simple routine task. In this task, a polyline scrolls from the top, and the participant manipulates the blue circle with key places. They are required to keep the circle on the line. Like this. We used an indicator of offline rate to evaluate the performance of this task. This is a percentage of time that the circle is out of the line during the task time. This is the result of a human line following experiment. This was done by crowdsourcing and observing changes in the motivation of several people. The graph on the right shows task performance. The horizontal axis shows time in 30 minutes, and the vertical axis shows the offline rate. Note that the vertical axis is a log scale, and larger value indicates higher performance since it is an offline rate. The graph shows a U shape. The first half of the graph shows effects such as motor learning, and the second half shows a decrease in performance. We think this is due to boredom or habituation. The focus of this study is on the performance decline in the second half of this graph. And this is an attempt to measure arousal. In the laboratory, single participants wear a heart rate monitor and perform the line following task. The heart rate variability is shown here. This is often used as an index of arousal level. Higher heart rate variability indicates lower arousal level. And the horizontal axis is time, and the red line shows the heart rate variability, and the green vertical lines show offline timing. The rate in the graph, frequency of offline increased, and heart rate variability also increased. It can be seen that the performance is decreasing due to the decrease in arousal level. That is, we observed a decrease in motivation in this task. So now I will describe the model using the concept and the task. This is an overview of the model. In this model, motivation is corresponded to the goal activation, and maintained motivation means that task-related goals have high activation. And goal activation is influenced by physiological factors such as arousal level. We map arousal level to activation noise. I will talk about each of these components. This is a task procedure performed by the model. Operation steps are organized in blocks. Basically, the model looks at the screen, grasps the current state, and manipulates the blue circle. Maintaining motivation means that the upper loop is more likely to be selected. And this junction is important to represent task execution and other thinking. Also in this model, task execution and another thinking are switched by retrieving the goal of the activity. If the retrieved goal is related to the task, then the circle operation is continued. Sorry. So then the circle operation is continued. When another goal is retrieved, the model does thinking out of the task, such as mind wandering. And which of the goal is retrieved is determined by the activation value assigned to each goal. That is, motivation is the activation of task-related goals. The activation value fluctuates with each retrieval. This means that noise is added to the goal retrieval. This noise is said to be related to arousal level, as is heart rate variability. And in our model, there is a setting to change the noise range. This represents a change in the ease of goal switching. So we performed 3 simulations using this model. First, we checked that the noise change setting represented a loss of motivation. And in simulation 2, we examined stimuli that would promote the maintenance of motivation. Finally, we considered a more adaptive stimulus based on simulation 2. First, we checked the noise change setting represented a loss of motivation. In this model, the activation noise value goes up and down, and these settings are used in simulation 1. And first, noise increases with time. This corresponds to boredom with the task and distraction over time. Also, noise is decreased when a specific event occurs. This can be said as making an effort to note when one notices that the circle is not on the line. In addition, there are 3 conditions for noise reduction range. This may be an individual difference in the degree of attention paid when the circle is not on the line. This is the result. First, we directly check the noise value in the model. These graphs show example of single run per condition of noise reduction range. The horizontal axis is the time of 30 minutes, and the vertical axis is the noise value. Under the small condition in the upper panel, the noise value doesn't decrease. In the medium condition, it can be seen that the value are gradually increasing over time. In the large condition, it goes up and down and stays at certain level. So maintaining motivation may require a person or situation that requires a certain amount of attention. And here we focus on the results shown in the middle panel. This change seems to be similar to heart rate variability, which is an index of human arousal level. Based on the noise results, checking the simulation result with other indicators. For each of 10 runs, we check the performance and the internal processing of the model, which indicates the mind wandering. And the red line shows the average of 10 runs, and each case is indicated by a thin line. The arrow shows the offline rate. This is performance, and the middle row shows the organized noise value. The lower row shows mind wandering rate, and each column shows the condition of the noise reduction range. The offline rate indicates the percentage of circle not on the line, and the mind wandering rate indicates the percentage of the lower pass chosen. So focusing on the condition with a medium range of reduction, which is a good representation of the noise change. First, a performance decline in the latter half. we can see small decline on average, but some cases have a large decline. Next, we can see that both the noise value and the mind-wandering rate have increased. We think that we were able to represent the loss of motivation in the setting of noise value change. Based on simulation 1, we examined the representation of stimuli, maintaining arousal levels or motivation. This assumes external stimuli that cause workers' attention, such as a change in background music or background color. This time, we use the simulated stimulus by a modification of the noise reduction range instead of giving the actual stimulus. It means at half of the task time, the noise reduction range is expanded from 0.04 to 0.08. Other conditions are the same as in simulation 1. This is results. The left figure shows an example of noise value changes. The dotted gray vertical line indicates the stimuli timing. So the noise tends to increase before the stimuli, but decrease after the stimuli, and doesn't decrease afterward. And the right panel shows 10 runs for each indicator, and the mind-wandering rate decreases at the stimuli timing in response to the change in the noise value. This result suggests that maintenance of arousal or motivation by external stimuli can be represented in this model. Furthermore, we investigate the plausibility of a more adaptive setting based on the timing of stimulus presentation. In simulation 3, a pre-computed baseline from model's internal variables is used to determine the timing of the stimuli. Here, use the mind-wandering rate. This is intended for measurement using sensing devices. This is the result of simulation 3. As in simulation 2, the left figure is an example of noise value, and the yellow line indicates the mind-wandering rate, and the dotted gray horizontal line is the pre-computed baseline of the mind-wandering rate. We can see that the noise didn't increase after the point where the mind-wandering rate exceeded the baseline, and the other indices are also low and stable, indicating that the arousal level is maintained by the stimuli. This result is clearer by comparing with simulation 2. For example, in the mind-wandering rate, both simulations show a stimulus-induced decrease. However, in simulation 2, there are high peaks in some cases. And in simulation 3, it stays low in all cases and at all times. To summarize, in this study, we developed a motivation models using Actual. We represented workers' motivation changes by mapping them to activation noise. The simulation suggested the effects of adaptive stimulation, and in the future, we will extend this model and consider a support system to maintain arousal level. Thank you.
So if I could ask speakers to come up to the microphone and, ask questioners to come up to the microphone and ask their questions. Thank you. A comment and a question on site. Yeah. Can we just leave this on? Sure.
Oh, yeah, a comment and a question. I don't know why John Anderson decided to talk about sub-symbolic processes in ACT. It's just numeric processing for conflict resolution and things like that. And I just think it's really, really badly named. I'm not blaming you, but I think it's a misnomer. The question is, I think this is interesting work, but I'm not sure you're talking about motivation. Motivation is generally viewed as a longer term process, and it includes not just intensity, but also valence. And I didn't hear anything about how someone could be disgusted with a task they have to do over and over again and decide they're very aroused, but they really hate what they're doing. They're not motivated to do well on it. So I think you may be talking about attention, which seems to be more in spirit with the kind of phenomena you're discussing. Do you think that might be a better label for this model? Is it attention rather than motivation?
So attention and motivation.
I think it's attention. I don't think you're talking about motivation.
Okay. Attention. Sorry.
Mind wandering is about if you're not, mind is not wandering, you are attending to the task. Even if you hate it, even if you don't want to do it, you're focusing on it. You're not motivated, but you are attending. I just think it's a terminological thing. But I think that there's a big literature on motivation that this has nothing to do with. I think that this has a lot to do with the degree to which we are focusing attention on a task. We don't have to answer it now, but that's my proposal.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I can't answer the question.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me just remind people on Zoom, if you have a question, please go ahead and enter it in the Slack channel. There aren't any right now, so if you want to go ahead.
Does the task, the line following task, does it change over time, become more or less difficult?
So please some more about the task. What is it?
Oh, I was asking, does it get harder or easier over time?
What time? So I think so about in the human experiment. So it is so simple task. I think it's easier, more easier to over time. So in the human experiment, the first half or first several minutes, the performance is increased. It's some motor running or something. I mean, so easier over time in this section.
Okay, so it doesn't really, right, it's a simple task, it doesn't really change. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm curious about two things in terms of the crowdsourcing experiment. What was the reward for your users that was given to them for conducting the task? How much was it based on performance? And then did they know that it was going to be exactly a 30-minute task or not?
So I'm sorry. Please, one more. Sorry, mm, 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 mm. Sorry, I missed your question, but I received some advice from my course, and your question is about the reward,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So it's 500 yen and Japanese yen, not changed by the performance.
Not changed by performance. Same reward. Okay. And did they know that it was 30 minutes exactly or not?
Yeah, yes, all certain.
Thanks.
Okay, let's thank our speaker again.